Hey guys, Rob and George here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing X-Files seasons number 2 now, and the extension to Dwayne Barry, episode 6, entitled Ascension. Drops October 21st, 1994, and unlike the previous episode, this one is directed by one Michael Lange. Pretty sure he directed some other episodes here in the canon. Should elect, but with the holidays and everything just seems sort of like that. Written by Paul Brown. It is a really, really good extension follow-up to the previous episode, and amazingly setting up what we already know, but we'll learn just how far-reaching the conspiracy is and what really lies at the center of it. This episode really is good in terms of throwing some things, and I wish you could go back and remember what it was like to see this the first time when it aired on TV, and you were watching it literally for the first time with the only thing in your mind was what has come before, and you were just waiting to see this thing continue, not knowing where it was going to go. And this one is interesting because it sets up an opportunity for Gillian Anderson to take a minor leave as a result of her pregnancy. And that will come front and center, as we'll see in this episode. So anyways, one thing I want to say real quick, too, I was thinking, I did this a little bit during the Space 1999 series that I did. Every once in a while you come across an episode and you just wonder, is there a better title? And not that I think this one necessarily needs a better title. Ascension really does. I think, to me personally, Ascending Skyline Mountain for Mulder, the Ascension is reaching that peak, that moment when we're all awaiting, will the X-Files be reopened or will they not be reopened? But I was thinking, man, when they're up there on the mountain and Mulder finally finds them, and he's like, where's Scully? Where's Scully? And Barry's like, they took her. And he's all joyous and just because he's not gone, right? And Mulder is like, who? And Dwayne Barry, man, he just says this. He delivers this line so great, man. Steve Railsback is who we're talking about, right? As Dwayne Barry. Them. And I thought, it hit me. What an awesome title for this episode. Them. Because like Ascension, them also conveys multiple things going on. Who are them? The government operatives that are, the black helicopters and the secret organizations, and all that lies within this growing mythology. Or is it truly extraterrestrial life? Are these truly, really abductions? Is Dwayne Barry absolutely right? Well, we know he's right about a few things, right? And so the episode picks up right at the moment of Scully's abduction, and Mulder quickly arrives on the scene, surveys the damage, in much a way that Will Graham does in Manhunter. The way he's able to just sort of visualize the crime scene and then how that might have gone down or how that might have looked. It's a certain approach that was interesting. And sort of frightening, but interesting, because you're already growing close to these characters, and if you've already been for the long haul already, and as I'm revisiting, I'm already I'm well over neck deep in with these characters, and so it's really fascinating just to kind of go back from the beginning and see it all unfold in a much more methodical way, I guess. So Margaret shows up, Scully's mom, and I think the episode, like the previous episode, was sort of bookended by an abduction of sorts, beginning with Dwayne Barry and ending with Scully's abduction. This one, I think, is sort of bookended by Scully's mom and the dreams that she's having of losing Scully, which for Mulder gives him a sense of hope that perhaps she's still alive and that perhaps she will be recovered yet. And I find that was pretty an interesting little bit of writing. I wonder Well, it's just good. It's good. Works well. Upon this, Skinner in due order not dismisses Mulder from the case, but because he's so close to it and he hasn't, he's overworked, he tries to distance him away. But of course, we know Krychek is also with the cigarette smoking man, also keeping him abreast of what's going on. As all of this happens, of course, Barry is racing off to Skyland Mountain. He knows where to go now. He's got Scully in the trunk. He'll get pulled over by a patrol officer. And unfortunately for the patrol officer, who seems to have the situation in order, Scully, knowing that she's probably this close and needs to do something, creates a disturbance of sorts where immediately as the patrol officer turns and to the sound that he's hearing from the trunk, Dwayne Barry uses that moment to pull out his gun and shoot the officer in the street and continue onward. So in a way, unfortunately, Scully inadvertently causes the death of a patrol officer. But on the flip side, it is the footage that Mulder's able to see and realizes she, in fact, is still alive, and begins very quickly to piece together where they are actually headed, so it's kind of two sides to that coin. Is interesting. At the top of the mountain, of course, Mulder, the tramway that goes up the mountain, Mulder is able to force his way on it. It has been closed down for the summer and for due repair and whatnot, but he's able to get on, and Krychek stays down to manage the guy who runs the tram, right? But as Mulder reaches the peak, Krychek intervenes finally and kills the tramway operator and puts the thing to a stop, which causes Mulder to climb out and climb on top. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea just how serious of a traitor Krychek is and who he's working for. We don't even know really who he's working for other than reporting to the cigarette smoking man, right? And yet and you really don't know what Krychek is hoping for. Is he hoping that by moving the tramway again, that he'll cause Mulder to fall to his death? Because we do find out later that he does suggest to cigarette smoking man, maybe he just needs to be killed. And of course, cigarette smoking man dismisses that. You don't want to turn one man's religion into a crusade, right? By making him into a martyr of sorts. And it's interesting how that just kind of always seems to carry us along. And you never really truly understand motives purely. Chris Carter's, this is a little politically incorrect, but Chris Carter has said himself that he's an Indian giver, meaning, he gives us things and ultimately takes them back. And I don't mean to rupture anyone's sensibilities with that, but sometimes catchphrases are the easiest to go to, right? And but he's admitted that himself. He gives us so much and then takes back constantly. There's this this struggle of really not knowing the full picture. Of course, I guess that's why it lasted 11 seasons and 2 feature films. So at the top of the mountain, of course, I've already alluded to, Scully has been abducted again by someone. We don't know if it's the aliens or if it's the government, in an operation to break these two up once and for all. Dwayne Barry feels pretty confident that it is. Of course, the aliens have come and abducted. So he is taken into custody. We have a scene where Mulder attemptably almost kills him in the midst of trying to ascertain information. This ultimately does lead to Barry's death, though. After Krychek goes in with him, Skinner and them show up at where they're at, and Skinner immediately wants to see Dwayne Barry, in which case we see him in convulsions and he mysteriously dies, which attemptably is pinned on Mulder, but thankfully for Krychek's, again, motivations, testimony, or his word on Mulder's story, things are just all over the place. You're not sure where they're going to turn, or this way, that way, or whatever. And so ultimately, that leads us Mulder's desperate search or attempt to meet with Senator Matheson, which is interrupted by X, who tells him, basically, you have no idea what you're messing with here, and there's nothing you can do. You're alone. You're by yourself. no one can help you. And that's not really true. Mulder will get helped from time to time. And ultimately, we are heading towards the great moment in the end of this. If you've never seen this particular episode, you may want to just go ahead and bail out, because I am going to reveal the end of what happens. If it's not a big deal to you, then whatever. But this leads, when he has borrowed Krychek's car, and he gets into Krychek's car after a few moments of meditating. Something catches his eye. He looks down at the ashtray, he pulls it out, and he realizes, wait a minute here, Krychek doesn't smoke. Who do these belong to? And he starts to piece things together, which leads to, leads to the meeting at the end with Skinner, his report, his placing blame on Krychek in terms of the death of the tramway operator, Dwayne Barry, impeding the investigation, and basically alludes that he is working for someone, and this needs to stop. Skinner, ultimately, he has to make a decision, and he finally does. The line in the sand has been drawn. He calls Krychek in. We find out Krychek is off the map. He is gone now, and Mulder is just left like, what can we do? What can we do? What can you do? And Skinner just looks at him and goes, the only thing they fear. I'm reopening the X-Files. And it almost, you love hearing it. It almost feels a bit anticlimactic, only in the sense of how Mulder receives in terms of his facial expression and Skinner's. And I guess they're just both left there, what else can you do? What else do you do? Scully's probably gone. We're not getting her back. And the only thing we can do is do what they fear most, and that is just reopen the X-Files, which it's interesting knowing that she is disappeared and gone. I'm just so fascinated to see the next one, 3, and just see narratively how her abduction plays a part as he deals with another investigation. Now, we all know, of course, she's having her baby and she's away from the show, but it'll be interesting to see how that sort of progresses. So she's gone for a couple more episodes. But we know how these things unfold, right? The only thing I really didn't touch on, I guess, we find the autopsy of Dwayne Barry, of course, is taken over by the military. So now we know the military has their hands on this. As I said, Margaret concludes the episode with sharing her dreams again, which gives Mulder a sense of hope. But the only thing I really didn't get into was a visual presentation of Scully's abduction and the testing. And I think this is kind of from Mulder is sort of just visualizing what may be happening to her, which the scene with her belly, it is her real belly. She is really pregnant. And so they sort of utilize and capitalize on that, which is funny because that just begs a lot of questions in terms of the show. Now, we know in real life what's happening, but in terms of the narrative of the show, that does beg an awful lot of questions. So it's going to be interesting to see how this comes in the next few episodes. So Ascension, a great two-parter. It is, again, Dwayne Barry is the only one that ends with to be continued, or the first one that ends to be continued. It was a great, I can't imagine what it was like back then to have seen Dwayne Barry for the first time, knowing I had to wait a whole week to see Ascension and to see the continuation of that story. That is so freaking cool. This might be, at least in the early going, the best two-parter yet. We know Toombs gets his two. We know, what's his name? The show will be Orson. Irresistible is the first one. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who has a fetish with the dead people. He gets to. There'll be a few to be continued, and obviously we have another cliffhanger, a season cliffhanger that is out there on the periphery, right? It'll be interesting to see what that is. The last one was really freaking good. So anyways, so Ascension, what'd you think? Dwayne Barry, 2 of the best episodes. Chris Carter's directorial debut for Dwayne Barry. And this one, dang good episode, man. I'm curious. In light of these 2 episodes, I'm really super curious now at the next one, 3. I'm really curious. So anyways, with all that being said, thank you for the support. Thank you for just trailing along with. And I'm not stopping, man. If as long as I can hold out, man. It's all 11 seasons. It's the 2 movies. And who knows beyond that. But thank you for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's so much appreciated. Always end these things off with, go Bills, and have a good new year.